Mike Fisher reporting from Frisco on the Dallas Cowboys, in a way. Matt LaFleur seemingly goofed. Sean McDermott seemingly goofed. So, by not ripping in to the two losing coaches in the NFC and AFC championship games, did Troy Aikman also goof? Did Tony Romo also goof? My Sports Illustrated colleague Jimmy Traina, who writes a great column, great information on the world of sports media, TV, and more. And so he's in there every day doing this, and I'm deferential to him in that sense. He writes smart and funny stuff about what goes on in the sports TV world. And he wrote some random notes on Aikman and Romo and their performance on TV the other day, on Sunday. Here's Jimmy on Aikman, and then the Green Bay coach, LaFleur, who wasn't able to overcome now Super Bowl bound Tampa. He writes, Aikman did a nice job addressing LaFleur's nonsensical decision to kick a field goal down 8 with 2 minutes and 9 seconds. He said, Aikman said, I'm really surprised by the decision. Okay? But Traina thinks that Aikman should hammer him, should have ripped him. Then, meanwhile, here comes Tony Romo. He's on TV later in the same day. And McDermott, the Buffalo coach, keeps kicking field goals. And again, Romo expressed surprise at it, but not anger. So Aikman, former Cowboy quarterback, who we know very well. Romo, former Cowboy quarterback, who we know pretty well. Were they supposed to rip those coaches to shreds for the decisions? You watch those games. You have your opinions on the decisions, I'm sure. You have your opinion, I bet, on Aikman, the broadcaster, who's been doing this a long time. On Romo, the broadcaster, who's obviously became an immediate sensation. They are the two best in the business, I guess, at what they do. I guess you'd put Chris Collinsworth in there. They would be the 3 best in the business, right? I mean, they're at the top of the profession. So Jimmy Traina writes about Aikman, he could have been more forceful in hammering LaFleur for making such a terrible decision. But, you're not going to get that out of the analyst with the coaches on NFL TV. We'll go back to that one. On Tony, again, network analysts aren't going to spend more than a couple seconds calling out the coaches. Now, again, as I say, and by the way, thanks for subscribing here, because we do a little bit of hammering, and we do a little bit of ripping, and we're also doing broadcasting. I do it on the radio, as you know, every day. I've done it on TV for many years. And as far as I'm concerned, except for my looks, we're on TV here. We look just like we're on TV, except for how ugly I am. But while Jimmy knows TV, I can say that I know Aikman. And I think I can lend some insight into what's going on in that Aikman brain, and that I know Romo, and maybe can give some insight what's going on into that brain. When Romo disagrees with you, and again, this is 10 years of conversations with him, right? 10 plus years. He demonstrates a mastery for the eye roll and for the sideways grin. I don't know how he does it, but he does it. That's his way of telling you you're full of it. Not ripping you. That's face to face, to your face. That's just not his nature. He's not a hammer rip guy. He does plenty of enthusiastic screaming on TV. He's emotional, as we know on TV. He's got emotion about it, but it's mostly about positivity. That's just the way Romo's built. Aikman, as you know, I know very well. 30 years. Listen closely, and we used to make fun of him for it. And now I don't even know if the audience notices, because it's, how long has he been doing it for? Has he been doing it for 20 years? Now it's just part of his delivery, part of his cadence. This is how he talks when there's no TV cameras around, and this is how he talks on the air. And friends know that this is kind of a trademark of Aikman. He'll say, I don't know that that was a good call. I don't know that that's a good idea. Hey, Troy, do you want to go get you want to get another beer? I don't know that that's a good idea, is what he might say. He doesn't say that's a bad idea, Fish. He says, I don't know that's a good idea. Now, is that Oklahoma politeness? I don't know where he got it. His mom is a lovely and polite woman. That might be it. But I think it's quite charming, especially when you know him a little bit. You know, he's not going to rip you. He's not a ripper. He's not a hammerer. If you think back to when he did the Cowboys-Bengals game, right? And he was hard on the Cowboys. But he didn't rip them. He didn't hammer them. He analyzed them. That's how he views his job. And that's just his nature. Aikman's version of saying that's a bad play call is, I don't know that that's a good play call. I don't know that that's the play I would have called. That's his version of saying you suck. And that's as you sucky as it's going to be. I don't know that. Get it? Now, think about it. Now that I've told you about this, you won't be able to unhear it when you think back on Aikman broadcasts or you look forward to Aikman broadcasts. Here's where I really disagree with Jimmy, with all respect that I have for him and what he does. If you want high volume and hyperbolic analysis of these two decisions, or any other decisions, all you had to do was wait till the next morning. And all the Stephen A. Smiths, and all the little Stephen A. Smiths, and all the Stephen A. Smiths Juniors, and all the Stephen A. Smiths wannabes were all over these two coaches. There's guys on TV that may have not even watched the game that still got up the next morning and knew exactly what McDermott should have done and knew exactly what LaFleur should have done, and we're calling them idiots. I don't watch much of it. I assume there had to be somebody out there calling for somebody to be fired. There just had to be, because that's the way it works out there now. LaFleur should be fired for that. Now, it is funny that LaFleur, if I recall right, when he said, well, he was saying, well, it's a bygone issue now. I mean, it's over. He goes, I think he said, it's a mute point instead of a moot point. Now, I might fire him for that. College-educated man, head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and doesn't know the difference between moot and mute. But if you want all the screaming and yelling, you're not going to get it in that way from Romo, and you're not going to get it in that way from Aikman. And I'm saying good, because you get it everywhere else. There's some guys who I think do a good job and are insightful, but like almost too provocative. I'll mention one name here. Dan Orlovsky, I think, is a very sharp guy, but he's clearly trying to catch up with Stephen A. Smith by being a little more outrageous, a little louder than he might otherwise be, a little more opinionated, or a lot more opinionated than he would otherwise be. I know for a fact when those guys put up their rank the quarterbacks in the NFC East, they know what they're doing when they create a ranking of 4 that might not really be exactly what they think. But if you put Dak as second, okay. I mean, again, whoever you want to put first. But don't put Dak first. And don't put him fourth. And nobody will notice. Dak's the second best quarterback in the NFC East? Okay. If you say so, that's fine. Again, I'm talking about now, I guess, when that week when Carson Wentz was good. And maybe we're talking about Eli Manning still being here. But that's fine. Dak's the second. No, they don't do that. They put him first, or they put him last. Why? Because that's outrageous. That's going to grab them. That's hyperbolic. The network sports guys, channels, they want this. They want screaming matches. They want to find out who can issue the most harsh judgment. They want to see who can present their case most forcefully and who can do it cranked up the most loudly. Is that a word, loudly? So Aikman's rips are subtle. I don't know that is what I would have done. I don't know that I like that call. Romo's rips are subtle. You could hear him roll his eyes on TV if you press your head up against the screen. But there's no room for subtlety elsewhere. That means there's plenty of room for subtlety with them. I applaud the subtlety of Tony and Troy. One more thing about this. Are we sure that it was super dumb and super obvious and the dumbest thing I ever saw and fireable offense? Are you sure? Because I thought the Green Bay call was a bad decision. But I can see what he was thinking. I just think he's wrong. I thought the Buffalo decision to kick field goals, I disagreed with it. But I totally understand what he was thinking. That's why your 2-point conversion chart should be advice, not law. Because what's going on in the game matters. Your 2-point conversion chart does not show you, or your go for it chart does not show you what's going on in the game. You need both. Hey, this chart says that on 4th and 2, with this score at this yard line, we should always go for it. Great, says the guy with the chart, but then the coach needs to turn to him and say, yeah, but our center sucks, our 2 guards are hurt, and they have Aaron Donald on their team. Let's not go for it this time. You got to do both. I think Aikman understands that. I think Romo understands that in a way that sports writers and screamers do not. Now, ideally, Aikman gets all the calls right. Romo gets all his calls right. Coach gets all his calls right in Green Bay. Coach gets all his calls right in Buffalo. But we don't get them all right. Have you seen the ESPN graphic that they put up before the game as part of their preview of the big game? And they did it all day. And it ranked the strengths and weaknesses of the Bills versus the Chiefs. Which one has the better coach? Which one has the better defense? Which one has the better special team? Then they had which one has the better quarterback. And they rated Josh Allen above Pat Mahomes. Now, Aikman and Romo had like a second to think of what they were going to say about those plays. ESPN had a week to prepare its graphic, the tail of the tape graphic. And they picked Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes? You see what I mean? What was the movie Speed? That was with the girl and the guy and the Keanu Reeves and the lady. And pop quiz, hot shot, says Dennis Hopper. Pop quiz, hot shot. What are you going to do? You got a speeding bus and a stick of dynamite and a pretty girl. What are you going to do? Hot shot, pop quiz. That's what being on live TV is. Trying to say, that was a good call, that was a bad call, I don't understand that call, I do understand that call. ESPN had a week to prepare its graphic for which quarterback should get the check mark, and they picked the wrong one. Patrick Mahomes saw that on Twitter later and just did a yawn emoji. See? Subtle. Works. Fish out.